From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Good evening and welcome to OpenLine. I'm Nick Leonardo, the News Channel 5 legal analyst, and tonight we have a very special segment of OpenLine for you. This is one that we do called Ask a Lawyer, where you, the viewer, get to call in and ask your legal questions. And we have an attorney with us tonight who'll hopefully answer all of our legal questions. Maybe there's something going on in your family that is a domestic matter or family matter. Maybe you have questions about employment law, or maybe it's personal injury or probate. And we here at News Channel 5 strive to have great lawyers here to answer those questions. And I'm delighted again to be here this close to Christmas, and happy holidays, by the way, with one of our finest lawyers that I know of in the Tennessee bar. He's also an alumni of the Nashville School of Law, and he definitely makes that school proud, and me as an alumni, I'm proud that he's a graduate of that school. But again, tonight we do have Kevin Kennedy who's taking your calls.
Yes, thank you, Nick.
How are you, Kevin?
God bless you. Now, I was looking at Nick with this suit on over here tonight, and he said, are we color coordinated? I said, well, if we can't wear them tonight, when can we not wear them? And it's great to be with you, and great to have y'all be sure and call in through the night, and we'd love to share with you. And it's always a pleasure to do business with Nick. You know, I see him on the screen, and he is absolutely brilliant. And so I love it because he and I get to share these legal ideas and theories. And so you're in for a treat tonight. If you've got the question, we want you to be encouraged, call in, and we'd love to share with you a little peace of mind. It'll help you a lot over the holidays.
And make sure the number's at the bottom of your screen. It's 737-PLUS or 737-7587. And right now we don't have any phone calls, but call in with your legal questions for Kevin. And Kevin, one of the things I wanted to ask you is that, you know, you see a lot of ads on TV about personal injury lawyers and the like, and it seems like we're inundated every day. There's more and more. And so if you're a consumer of legal services at home, how do you know who to call? You know, is this one for you or not for you?
Come on, it's a great question. And you know, now I've been practicing law in excess of 30 years and had lots of big cases. And you know, when I call a big case, once they get over $1 million, that's a big case. And so you say, okay, well, who should I give this case to? One of the first questions you need to look and see, does this lawyer or law firm have the resources it takes to advance that case? You know, the last $5 million settlement we got cost over $200,000 in fees to get ready to get that case settled. And if we can't afford the experts, then you can't advance the cause. And if you had someone over here who did not have those resources or the manpower, then you're shut down, and then you're going to be offered less than the case is worth. Then it puts pressure on the client to say, golly, I got to take the $1 million, but you left $4 million on the table. So that's the first thing I would look at. What is their reputation? Have they handled some big cases before? Do they have the resources and the manpower to get the job done? That's what I'd look at if it happened to my family member.
Okay, it looks like we got a few calls. We've got Harry on line 1. Good evening, Harry.
How are you gentlemen doing?
Great, Harry.
Doing well. What's your question for Kevin?
Sir, I have an employment question. I work for a rather large company, and they created a new skilled position within the company and promised me a substantial pay raise if I would fill this position. I am currently the only person in the company that can do this position, and since I'm filling the position now, they are saying they're not going to fulfill their promise of a pay raise. I consider that a, quote, meeting of the minds, which is a legal term. Do I have any standing?
Well, yeah, you got a grasp of it right now. You know, you have to have a meeting of the minds to ever have a contractual obligation one with another, and then another part of that is consideration. Nick, what do you say?
You know, I think he does have, potentially he's got the meeting of the minds, and there could be some consideration there, but I think it's also important to, note that it is an employment at will state.
Yes,
right?
that's Tennessee, and explain to everyone, what does employment at will mean?
Employment at will means it's a right to work, right to fire state. So you could be fired for a good reason, bad reason, or no reason at all, but there are five reasons you cannot be fired, and that would be your race, your ethnicity, your religion, your age, or whether you're male or female.
Yes.
And so absent one of those exceptions, exceptions. I get these calls quite a bit, and if there's no employment contract there, you've got some problems in maybe being able to bring your case to trial and prevail. But one thing we're seeing a whole lot more of, and I don't know if your office is involved in it at all, Kevin, but is this wage theft violation you're seeing a lot of more and more.
And one of the most important things that a citizen has is your job. So it's going to take more and more resources to look at it and say, this is my most valuable asset, so you'll have to protect it. And I always say this too, look when you go do a little research on employment lawyers, and you call them. Lots of people have a free initial consultation, and you can get that initial. What would I say to the vast majority in the broadcast? If you've got this, a good understanding keeps down a misunderstanding, and you could have a little right. And they say, well, what about the writing? Nick and I'd say, well, I'll come to work for you, Nick. And you say, okay, Kevin, I'm going to guarantee you so much money. Well, we really ought to have a writing.
Yes, sir.
And perhaps I would write a little memo. Dear Nick, thank you so much for the offer. I accept your offer, and I'm coming to work for you for X amount of dollars. They said, well, now you didn't get Nick's signature. And I said, well, I didn't necessarily have to have Nick's signature. I believe I satisfied the statute of frauds and enough where Nick would say, I'm going to honor that deal.
That's exactly right. No substitute for experience in this line of work, is there, Kevin?
It is true.
All right, we got Jimmy on line 2. Good evening, Jimmy.
Hello?
Hi, Jimmy. What can we do for you?
Yeah, I live in an RV campground, full time. I moved my old RV out of my space and was going to buy another one from another gentleman, and I was moving it over to my space within the campground, and there was a city truck sitting partially in the road and partially not in the road. And I made it through him, but when I swung to get into my place that I live, it scraped his fender. Well, the police were called, and the report was made, and the officer gave me a ticket for not having insurance. Well, it wasn't even my vehicle. I was thinking about buying it. And the officer told me, don't pay the ticket, Mr. McDowell, go to court. So I'm just wondering, what's the deal on that? I never got out of the campground on a state, county, or city road, and it wasn't even my vehicle to start with, which it is now. I bought it. But I kind of like to know what I'm looking forward to when I go to court.
Well, you identified one of the issues. Was this a public road or passageway? That's going to be an issue regarding that. And, anytime you've got two things going on right there, it's a civil liability if a person were to scrape and you say, well, they were halfway in the road, they weren't. Well, it gets down to civil. Did they cause, by parking that vehicle half on the road and half, did that create negligence on their posture? Usually they're going to say you're liable because you're the one that actually made contact with the other. And, when it gets down to someone writing a ticket, if you were to go to a city court, what is the proof? They have to carry their burden of proof, and if they don't, you always have a right to confront the witnesses, cross-examine the witnesses, and if they didn't have a witness, you know what your MO is? It's Nick Leonardo's famous, we move to dismiss.
That's exactly right. It's something else they're doing now, and the General Assembly just passed this law that if you do not have proof of insurance at the time of an accident or the time that you're pulled over, it used to be that you could bring that insurance into court and that the citation would be dismissed. Well, now they have to suspend your license for an additional period of time. Of course, now you're able to get it back. So the General Assembly is really caving to the insurance lobby, and it's making it a very slippery slope when it comes to having proof of insurance. But, your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance is something that's always important to have on you at all times.
Yes. My son's a doctor, and he came back and gave me a little something for Christmas one time. And he said, one of your favorite quotes? I said, tell it. He said, my daddy always said, always have insurance, but never rely on it. And what we really mean is you're constantly protecting yourself, because the insurance company, if they can find an exclusion or they can find a way not to pay, they will, and then that puts you and I right there on the front line. So I thought it was pretty. I don't remember telling him that, but he remembered it, so it's pretty good.
Well, and another reason why you need a really experienced attorney a lot of times, because just because there's a car accident and we know the other person's liable, there could still be some exclusion of that person's insurance tries to get out of paying.
Absolutely.
And so that's where experience comes in, and being a good trial lawyer is something that you really need to rely on when you're choosing.
I really like that. And again, this is a great time. You don't have to make all these statements, and you don't have to make statements against you. If you had a wreck and it was your fault, you really don't have to say this was my fault. And so sometimes that helps protect you when you've got to look after yourself.
Okay, on line 4, we've got Jamie. Good evening, Jamie.
Hi,
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. I have a question that's been nagging me for quite some time.
Okay, well, hit it. We'll see what we can do with it.
Okay, my mother passed away, and she died intestate. However, during that time, my sister, who was 3 years younger than me, went to the bank to get things straightened out. She found out that my father, who was deceased prior to my mother, had left $100,000 in the bank that was to be divided among the 4 kids. Now, I'm out of state. I'm in Tucson. And this happened in Tennessee. So I'm finding out this information as it's rolling in, and I'm going, wait a minute, I don't understand any of this. So I then get a phone call, and I'm told that my brother has gone into the $100,000 bank account. He does not have durable power of attorney and has taken the money and bought cars or, whatever it was that he wanted to do with it. My mother had not been in that bank for 5 years. She was unable to, to go in there. So my question to the person who called me was, did he forge her signature? And they said it's a possibility. And I said, well, then I think we need to pursue that first. The bank then turned around and sued me for the additional amount of money that was owed on a truck that he bought. And because at the point of time I had property, my sister had property, I had to pay them $2,500 or put a lien on my house. I find out later that was not true.
Well, the first thing
He was never held accountable for any of this, and if the debt was paid for the car, where's the truck?
Well, the first deal that comes up is, was it fraud on the bank? And if he went in there and forged a document, that's a crime, carries civil liability, criminal liability, and if it were proven, the bank has to put that money back in there. Now, it's going to be some gray areas. Did he try to have any kind of power of attorney? Did he use a power of attorney that actually went beyond what rights he had? So you'd have to look at the facts on that. And, if you're confronted with that situation that you've shared here tonight, most any lawyer, that's the first thing they're going to look at.
That's exactly right. Thanks for your question, Jamie. Scott, you're on line 1. We'll take your call as soon as we get back. We're taking your phone calls here on Open Line, 737 Plus or 737-7587. We'll be right back after these messages.